Independent Central, Illinois, WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio today, Reagan Tibbs with the University of Illinois Extension and Logan Menard in Sangamon counties. Reagan, Happy New Year to you, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good, Seth. Happy New Year to you, too.
Thanks for coming out and talking with us. I haven't seen you since Peoria at the Peoria Greater Peoria Farm Show, and I know over there a lot of good conversation, a lot of good material extension put out there, and that's going to continue at the Agronomy Summit coming up in February.
Yep. For mine in Springfield, it's February 17th, but there's a series of them across the state this year. Last year, we had about 3 or 4 of those events in different parts of the state. This year, we've expanded it to about 6. So we're really excited to have those opportunities to provide that to provide that research and the information from our experts from campus and others in the ag industry directly to local producers. So yeah, we're really excited to keep up our winter programming and keep up that information to producers.
Will these be carbon copies of each other, or will they be specific to the area they're held in? What will they look like?
Each one's a little different. So all of us that are hosts, we all get to kind of pick our own topics based on our conversations with our local stakeholders, local producers, things we've been seeing in the area. So mine, I think some of us do have some similar speakers across all of them, but most of us do have kind of our own different speakers and different agendas for the day. So, but again, it's all about having that information that's important to those local producers, those local stakeholders.
Before we go any further, February 17th, the where, the time, is there registration fees, all those things?
Yeah, so February 17th at our Sangamon County Extension office there in Springfield, right out by the airport. You can't miss it as you're coming in. Starts at 9 o'clock, but we're going to have some coffee and some donuts about 8:30 in the morning, so happy to have that.
Who's going to turn down coffee and donuts?
Absolutely, absolutely. Registration is $20, but that includes coffee and donuts and will include lunch. And registration, you can find the event webpage at our website, extension.illinois.edu/LMS.
All right, easy enough. All right, let's get into it, Reagan. What are you going to be presenting on this year?
Yeah, so we got a lot of things going on at the Agronomy Summit. So kind of starting off, test my knowledge if I can remember the agenda off the top of my head. First off, we're going to have Dennis Bowman, who's our digital ag specialist with University of Illinois Extension. He's going to talk about some of the recent advances in technology and how the data and the information that's gathered by these technologies can be used for producers on their operations. Then we have Dr. Aaron Hager, who's our weed specialist over on campus. He's going to talk about some research he's doing with water hemp and its resistance to a couple of Group 15 herbicides. Really excited to have him come over. We have Dr. John Jones, who's an agronomist over at the University of Illinois. He's going to talk about our research we have going on up at Hartsburg, also some other agronomic topics as well that he's working on. Then we got Dr. Nick Sider, who is one of our entomologists over on campus. He's going to talk about some insect management practices for 2026 for corn and soybeans. Then we kind of wrap up the day with myself, talk about ag policy, always a fun topic that I'm going to insert. And then a new addition, actually, Hunter Buchanan, who's in our office. He's our local food specialist in our office, working with Sangamon County on their farm to fork initiatives. He's going to provide an update on the work he's doing in Sangamon County, all the projects he is working on his plate, and then where he plans to go for 2026 and beyond.
Sure. I know you introduced this concept last year, the Agronomy Summit. If I remember right, kind of a slow start. What did you learn from last year that you're bringing into this year and make it so it's maybe get a little more interest in it?
Yeah, I think definitely it's keeping. I think the big thing with last year and then this year is making sure that we're really listening to those local producers. What are they looking forward to for this year? What kind of information are they already getting? Is there something we can supplement? Is there a different topic that maybe they're not getting as much information or hearing as much on? Is that something that we can fill in with that gap? So yeah, last year was a struggle. I will admit, we didn't have the numbers we were looking for, but this year now we've changed some things up, got a different approach on it, and hopefully we can have some success this year.
To that end, what'd you hear from producers? What are they wanting to know about right now?
Obviously, I think a lot of the things that producers are hearing are the economic kind of situation, which is important, but there's a ton of information about that already. I think what we're looking forward to with this one is utilizing information to make better decisions to improve that economic situation on the farm. So how can we optimize our insect management? Hearing that from Dr. Sider. How can we help better manage water hemp? Hearing that from Dr. Hager. Using that technology like Dennis is going to talk about. How can we utilize all these different approaches on our operations to improve our production, improve our economic outlook for farms.
Gotcha. So again, the when, the where, and all those good things, Reagan.
Yep. Springfield Agronomy Summit, February 17th at the Sangamon County Extension Office in Springfield, right out there by the airport. Starts at 9 o'clock with coffee beginning at 8:30. Registration can be found on our website, extension.illinois.edu/LMS.
Very good. That's Reagan Tibbs. He is the commercial ag educator at the University of Illinois Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties, in studio with us here for today. Reagan, some big news out of USDA on January 1. What do you have for us?
Yeah, so kind of a New Year's present from the USDA. They kind of previewed it a little bit about some farmer bridge assistance is what they've been calling it. They announced that there was going to be some money, but we didn't know how much there was going to be, how much specific producers or specific commodities are going to get. But like you said, on New Year's, we got some details. So overall, there's $12 billion from this farmer bridge assistance program, $11 billion of which is going towards row crop producers, which is a pretty big amount. And it's there and it's intended to help cover losses from the 2025 crop season, because the market prices over the 25 crop season were not as strong as we had seen over the last few years. So the USDA is going to utilize this $11 billion to help improve that economic outlook, that economic situation for row crop producers. And they cover a whole bunch of different crops, a whole bunch of different commodities, but the ones that kind of are really important to us here in Central Illinois, the payment rate for corn is $44.36 per acre. For soybeans, it's $30.88 per acre. And then for wheat, it's $39.35 an acre. So I believe, I don't know if there's an application or something. The USDA offices are handling that themselves. But essentially, if you grew corn, soybeans, or any other cover commodities, you might be eligible for a payment. Producers that are looking to get this have to have an adjusted gross income under $900,000, which I think, based on the research we've seen from FarmDoc and from FBFM here in Illinois, a lot of producers are going to fall underneath that, so they should be eligible for it. There's also a cap of $155,000 per person that's eligible to receive these payments. So again, still working through all these details from the USDA. Our FarmDoc team recently put out an article about this program, how much we could expect to get into Illinois, how much a producer could expect based on their situation. So this is definitely going to have a positive impact, but it's still going to make returns a little bit tighter. Yeah,
sure. Is this kind of an answer to the slow commodity prices?
I think it's an attempt to do that. Yes, obviously the USDA, they have their own methodologies, have their own ways of doing things. I think this is one of the answers they've come up with to try and help, like I said, improve the economic situation, given that returns this past year were not as strong as we expected. In fact, in Illinois, I think we were still looking at negative returns overall. So hopefully these payments will help a little bit. It'll depend on kind of your own farm situation as to whether or not they will help. Our FarmDoc research suggests that for most producers in Illinois that receive a payment, there might be slightly positive returns on a per acre basis, but it's going to be really, really tight. So hopefully that these payments, hopefully on an individual operation might offer some relief. But it may not, fully compensate for losses that we were expecting.
Yeah, little bit goes a long way sometimes, though.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Reagan, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the situation with Venezuela and how that is. Have you had a chance to dive into how that may impact ag right now?
I think there's still a lot of question marks. I think hearing yesterday some folks out in Washington talk about how much oil is there in Venezuela. There's a ton of it. So how is that going to get into the global market? How is that going to improve our ag situation? I have no idea. I think there are still so many question marks we have about this. I remember waking up the morning that we found out about this, and I remember seeing the first alert was, okay, there was explosions in Caracas. Oh, wait, what? And then just keep reading the headlines after that. It's like, okay, all right. So I think there are still a ton of questions that still have to be answered about Venezuela. And I guess we'll see. I think it's an interesting point, given that Venezuela is an next door neighbor to Brazil, who's one of our largest competitors on the global market right now. And so if for some reason the Venezuelan economy opens up and they start getting more imports, Brazil is right there next to them. And so that's going to be a competitive advantage for Brazil on that. So, but again, we're still trying to figure out a lot of details on this. So I'm sure I'll get fleshed out. But as of right now, I don't think anybody really knows what the impact.
So it remind me, is Venezuela kind of a major player in the ag space?
More so oil. That's
Okay.
that is there. They have one of the largest oil reserves in the world. And so that's where their big thing is. But I mean, but they still, everybody eats. And so again, being right there next to Brazil, they get that advantage from having the Brazilian commodities right there. And it's probably cheaper for them to get commodities from Brazil or from even Argentina, which is in their own continent, as compared to the United States.
Yeah. I mean, our tagline on our farm show is, if you eat, you two are involved in agriculture.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Sure. So very good. Any other kind of global impacts on the ag outlook going into 2026 on your mind?
I think one of the big things is kind of the global fertilizer markets. When Russia invaded Ukraine, gosh, was that 2022 now? So almost 4 years ago. That put a really heavy pressure on fertilizer markets. It shot fertilizer prices way up. They've come back down a little bit, but they have not decreased at the same rate that our commodity prices have decreased. So that's been putting a lot of pressure on our returns and our economic situation for producers. I think there's some expectation that fertilizer prices will continue to decrease. As to how much they decrease, we're not totally sure. And if that decrease will remain at the same, if they will decrease at the same rate as commodity prices will, that'll have a huge impact on returns. I think that's kind of the biggest kind of question mark we have on that front. And then also trade with China. Obviously, there's still a lot of moving pieces to that. I think US or the federal government just put out some data about how much China has been buying in soybeans. I have the numbers in front of me, but if they continue to reach towards that goal that the Treasury Secretary announced back last year, back in December, hopefully we get some positive movement on that, and that could help improve the commodity market situation.
Gotcha. Very good. A lot of good stuff there, Reagan. I know you write about it. I don't know if you talk about it, or if Extension has taken the dive into the podcast realm, but do where do folks find your musings and all those things?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a couple of podcasts. One of my colleagues up in Northern Illinois has a podcast called Talking Crop, is what she calls it. So, but you can find all information at extension.illinois.edu.
Very good. Reagan Tibbs is the commercial ag educator at the University of Illinois Extension in Logan, Menard, and Sangamon counties. My guest in studio. More to come with Reagan on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW. Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW. WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Great conversation today with Reagan Tibbs, commercial ag educator at the University of Illinois Extension in Logan Menard and Sangamon counties. And Reagan, meeting season continues with some pesticide trainings. I know these are very important for producers. How about these?
Absolutely, yeah. Our pesticide safety education program has started up their winter and spring season. They started back in December with a couple meetings, and they're continuing out through March and April. So it's really important that if it's time for you to renew your pesticide applicator license, whether you're commercial, private, whatever you are, it's important you get to one of these sessions to go through the information materials, and then you can take the test also at these locations.
How long are those good for?
I believe it's 3 years is how long they're good for.
Mhm.
So, but there's some changes. The state of Illinois passed a law last year that they're going to allow continuing education units for pesticide applicator licenses. I was at a meeting back in November with some folks from the Department of Agriculture, and there were people asking, well, what about this? And they're like, we don't know yet. It's still pretty new, and I think they're still trying to flesh out how they're going to do the continuing education units, who's going to be able to offer them, how are they going to be certified. That's all still in the works. But for right now, these pesticide safety clinics run by our pesticide safety team are really valuable tools. Get to hear from our team on campus and from other educators like myself. Like I said, they started back in December. They go through March and April. Here in the local area, we still have a few that are upcoming. Next week, there's one down in Springfield at the Crown Plaza Hotel. But then in Springfield, there's one more for private applicators on February 10th in Springfield. And then the last kind of major one in this area that has both commercial and private is in Peoria. So the 23rd and the 24th, that is our commercial clinic. So if you are a commercial applicator or a commercial operator, that's a clinic you'll need to go to. And then on the 25th is our private applicator clinic. So again, those are really important sessions, especially if you are up to do your testing. You can come sit the educational sessions, or if you just need to take the test, you just want to take the test, you're capable of doing that as well, or even reaching out to the Department of Ag separately just to go and take an in-person test at the Department of Ag.
Is there information that changes on these from year to year that guys would want to keep up on that more than maybe every 3 years?
Sometimes there's changes to the law or changes to regulations, whether it comes down from the federal level or even here at the state level. At the federal level recently, FIFRA, the federal, I don't remember what the acronym is. Of course, it's federal government. They have a ton of acronyms, but basically it's kind of the federal law that governs how we use insecticides and other products of that nature. That changed recently, some regulations around that in terms of how are these products certified and then having barriers and buffers when we apply them. So those rules are still changing. And I think we here in Illinois are still trying to figure out how to go through that. Last I heard from the Department of Agriculture. So yes, there are changes that might happen every year or so, but the manuals usually don't change that much. I think we put out annual revisions just make sure we stay current on that. But if you have a manual from the last couple of years, you usually should be pretty okay with a lot of the update information. And the nice thing about these sessions is we go through the manuals line by line, and we provide you the updated information through each of the section of the manual.
Thought you were going to say the nice thing about these sessions is you get coffee and donuts too. So,
well, I don't know if there's coffee and donuts. I think there's coffee usually. The ones I've been to the last
Gotta
couple
have
years,
coffee.
there have been coffee, but I don't know about donuts. I don't remember exactly.
Fair enough. Any other trainings producers need to know about, Reagan?
Again, the PSEP ones, and then we also have the certified livestock manager trainings that are going on across the state. Those are if you have livestock operations of a certain size, you have to have manure management plans. And so these trainings are there to help you learn how to properly manage manure, how to come up with a manure management plan. And then those also too have a test administered by Department of Agriculture, and they administer those tests as well after the trainings. I don't know where they're going to be at here in the local area, but you can find the information on our website as well, extension.illinois.edu.
Sounds good. All right, Reagan, let's wrap it up, my good man, talking about alfalfa surveys. What's going on here?
Yeah, so our colleagues up in Minnesota are working on a survey. They're working with Dr. Nick Sider from campus, who I mentioned a few minutes ago, who's going to be at our agronomy summits. They are working on alfalfa weevils. We have been seeing more and more alfalfa weevil pressure here in the Midwest over the last couple of years. And even there's some reported cases more out west than here in the Midwest about resistance to insecticides by alfalfa weevils. So we're trying to understand what the current populations of alfalfa weevils are. Are we seeing resistance here in the Midwest? So there is a survey that's been started by Minnesota Extension that's being shared out here across the Midwest. It's asking about pest pressures and pest populations, the effectiveness of different control methods, and other challenges producers are facing in combating alfalfa weevils. Then with that survey after that, if producers are willing, there are going to be researchers from the University of Illinois who will go out to fields and evaluate alfalfa weevil populations, test control effectiveness and other things. Hopefully that we can get a better understanding of current alfalfa weevil populations and the pressures they're putting on alfalfa and other forage producers here in the Midwest. There's an article on Farm Doc under the Farm Doc Bulletin, which is under the crops section of Farm Doc, that explains all of it, has a link to the survey that farmers or producers can take, and has some more information on how you can reach out to Dr. Sider and his team to get involved in that research.
What kind of damage do they do?
They attack the leaves, the actual leaves, that's where the main part of these forages are for. That's where the nutrition part is. So that's the main impact of these alfalfa weevils, and they can be pretty damaging. I've seen some pictures from out west where forage production is really, really important. They may be getting one cutting a year, where here we're pretty fortunate we get 2 or 3 cuttings a year. Out west where they get only 1 cutting, and if they have a pretty severe alfalfa weevil infection, it's pretty devastating for them. So
are there like conditions that are ripe for these?
With any insect, it just kind of depends. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what conditions are favorable for alfalfa weevils, but definitely if the conditions are ripe and they're there, they can have a pretty significant impact on alfalfa and other forages.
Normally, Reagan, I can bite my tongue, but my self-control is evading me this morning. Do you watch The Office?
What's that?
Do you watch The Office?
I do.
Weevil season? Dwight talking about weevil season at the club with Michael. That's where my mind went as soon as you started talking about this. Forgive me. Like I said, my self-control evaded me.
So in the situation, who's Michael and who's Dwight?
Well, Dwight's the farmer who's evading weevil season, right?
Okay.
So on the beet farm, he owns a 100-acre beet farm or whatever
so you're
it is.
saying I'm Dwight in this scenario.
No. It's not a scenario. It's just that my mind went to Dwight talking about weevils in the beet farm.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the only thing. So, anyways, Reagan, where do folks go for all things extension and your musings on things?
Yeah, absolutely. If they want to find our local page, it's extension.illinois.edu/LMS, or if they just search Logan County Extension, they can find us that way too.
That is Reagan Tibbs, University of Illinois Extension Commercial Ag Educator, and Logan Menard and Sangamon Counties in studio with us. Network news on the way.
WHOW.